Wake that ass up.
Early in the morning.
The Breakfast Club.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ MV, Angela Yee, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. We got a special guest in the building.
Yes, indeed.
Ari Melba.
What's happening?
Welcome back.
What's up, my brother?
Great to be back.
You exhausted yet?
Not yet. I feel
Okay.
good. How do you feel?
I feel good, but I know by November, I think we'll all be ready for this to be done. But then it's not done because either we get another term of Trump or a brand new president. So I don't know.
So what do you think? You know, what's going on with Biden and everything that's going on? What are your predictions?
Biden is the guy that for a long time you weren't swiping right. You were looking at every other option. This looks better. What about the new thing? What about the other thing? And I think it's a reminder that politics is like life and culture. And sometimes people do come home to the familiar. Mm-hmm. But is the familiar the best thing to go forward?
No.
That's a big question.
So now it's between Biden and Sanders, right? And what we're trying to figure out is, it seems like, and I saw you were talking to voters that were in Harlem, and you were having a discussion about why people are so supportive of Biden right now and why are people, voting how they're voting or who do they want to support. So what are your thoughts? Do you think that Sanders could possibly beat Trump, or you think that we're better off looking at Biden?
I think it's really funny that people treat Joe Biden like he would be the more electable. I think he's the more familiar, and there is Barack Obama associations, but there's no transitive property in politics. You know what I mean?
Word. Just because you worked with Barack as his VP doesn't mean that you are Barack Obama.
And if we're going to have real talk, and this is the Breakfast Club,
Right.
He was not put on Barack Obama's ticket because of his civil rights record or economic populism.
Say it, Ari.
I'm not trying to be negative. I'm just saying that's not what happened. What happened was Barack Obama broke through, beat the person that was expected to be the nominee that year, along with a lot of other people, Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden and Chris Dodd and other people that year, older, more well-known senators and such. And then Joe Biden was the establishment figure that was supposed to calm things down.
Right.
And it speaks to Barack Obama's shrewdness as both a transformative leader who also understands how to get people there.
How do I win?
That he said, I need the Joe Biden and the Hillary Clinton. There were, remember how tight the primary was? There were people who didn't like that either, and Barack Obama said no. But it wasn't because of that. In fact, an interesting data point about Joe Biden is South Carolina is the first time he ever won a state after running for president 3 different times in 3 different years. Yeah. So that's wild. Having said that, again, you mentioned the voters. We interviewed voters. We hear a lot of people who are excited about various candidates, including Bernie Sanders. But something happened on the way. Something happened where part of the Democratic Party grassroots, including a lot of African-American voters in a lot of different states,
the black voters in the South.
Said, well, you know the South?
Yeah.
Said, wait a
voters.
minute, we're not sure that we are ready for Bernie Sanders. Whether that means ready, can he beat Trump, or just ready, do you want to pay that tax?
Do you think it was fair?
Do you want to pay that tax? I know you're successful.
I don't have a problem paying the tax if it helps my community. I'll be honest with you. I mean, I don't have a problem, really helping my community. That's not the problem. The problem is, I think a lot of people felt, who can beat Trump? I feel like Joe Biden has Joe Biden has a better chance of beating Trump than Bernie does.
Why do they think that though? But for all the reasons you just said, he up until South Carolina, he didn't even beat Bernie in the primaries. And that's the first time he ever won a primary state. So why, in any of the times he's ran, so why would you think he could beat Trump?
I don't know why people.
Why do people think Joe Biden is the most electable?
I think those are good questions, and I saw you chopping up with Angela Rye about them, and I saw you guys were enjoying each other. Just kidding.
That's my sister.
There's some tension there.
No, that's my sister.
You think it hurts that
We have a
Barack
podcast called Sibling Rivalry.
Creative tension.
Yes.
You think that it hurts that Barack Obama still hasn't come forward and supported Joe Biden and endorsed him?
I mean, I think that's fascinating. On the one hand, this is the presidency. You got to go earn it yourself.
Correct.
On the other hand, Joe Biden got everywhere because of Barack Obama. When there were many candidates early, I see it, but Barack Obama laying in the cut when it's just basically Joe Biden, his running mate, Democrat, versus someone who, by his own estimation, and some people like this about Sanders, some people don't, but by his own estimation, against someone who's not even in the party, at a certain point, you got to be like, you want to help a guy out, and you don't have to endorse. Barack Obama, as we all know, could come and do one interview, one radio show, one appearance, and just say it out loud. Things he said before that are positive about Joe Biden. I do think he's being very careful. And you have to remember the Democrats have had their problems before, and they had a lot of problems with the perception of fairness and even playing field last time. So I think Obama's also sensitive to that. Are you really going to help your guy out if it looks like a thumb on the scale?
Now, let me ask you a question. With the coronavirus that's people are so scared about, how does that affect what's going on as far as with the Democrats, with Biden and even Trump?
I think it's a reminder that all the predictions are limited because a prediction is just a forward-looking statement based on things mostly staying the same. So people say turnout will be this, or Trump is likely to win or lose based on that. And then you remember we live more so than ever in a very dynamic, complex universe now, and the world's more interconnected. And sometimes you hear that and you say, what does that even mean? Okay, yada, yada. We can all talk to each other, communication, culture, internet. And then other times you're like, oh, right, the world's really interconnected. So a seemingly potentially small health problem over here can or cannot, but might become a global pandemic, right? And if that affects people's sense of their faith in government or their interest in a quote-unquote disruptor who's so disruptive, he doesn't even hire people for government jobs. Donald Trump's so disruptive, he just doesn't do a lot of the work of being a president, and everyone can make up their own minds about when that works. And there are people who say, oh, government should be smaller. And then during these kind of crises, especially if it gets worse, we'll see people tend to go, wait a minute, I need government. Oh, right, a corporation's not going to necessarily make the best call about when to ground the planes or who to tell to stay out or how we keep safe and how we get informed. And if it rattles the markets, yeah, I think Donald Trump has a good path to re-election in a good economy.
He's probably going to
win. And maybe not in a bad economy. Why do you say that?
Because I think that you're going to be dealing with Russian interference. I think you're going to be dealing with voter suppression. I think you're going to be dealing with voter depression, which to me is the biggest issue. Nobody on the other side is really that inspiring enough to make somebody get up and say, you know what, I'm going to vote for this person. That's why I think Joe Biden would be smart to announce his running mate and announce some of the people he might put in his cabinet. Because I think what's around you is what's going to determine, whether or not people get up to go vote for you.
Do you think that gives people other reasons to vote? Meaning,
yeah.
I'm excited about whether it's a Stacey Abrams,
Senator Harris,
or Warren and Sanders playing an economic role. I mean,
Absolutely.
Younger people are thinking about student debt. They're thinking about the job market, and Joe Biden just has never been about all of that. I mean, that would be interesting.
Yeah, that's why when people, I give Joe Biden so much hell for not having a black agenda simply because black people have saved his goddamn life. Let's be clear. Whether it was him being vice president for Barack Obama, Jim Clyburn endorsing him in South Carolina, all the old voters that voted for him on Super Tuesday, he'd be nothing without black people.
Well, there's an old saying, Jesus saved Kanye, but Jim Clyburn saved Joe Biden.
And I always look at that as one of the most important things I pay attention to is who are the people that surround you, not just the president, but who are you appointing to different positions in your campaign. And I definitely, even with Hillary, I paid a lot of attention to who she had around her. And that's what made me feel more comfortable saying, okay, I can support Hillary Clinton when she was the nominee. And I want to ask you this about Bernie Sanders supporters, right? Because a lot of people have issues with how aggressive Bernie Sanders supporters are and how they're like, it's either Bernie or nothing. What do you think Bernie should do about that? You think that he should, because I think that was a big issue previously, just his supporters not coming out and supporting whoever the nominee is and saying, we're going to sit this out, and also just aggressively attacking people. Even Elizabeth Warren said she had issues with Bernie Sanders supporters. Do you think that he needs to get that together?
I think it's a mix. Are you responsible for everyone who follows you on the gram and shouts you out and then starts beefing with people on your behalf and then goes farther than you want? And how much time and energy do you give to handling that? Political campaigns are complex, and the bigger they get, the more you get a whole mix of people. I do think when you talk about a leader, you want the leader to set the tone and also hold people responsible. There may have been a time earlier where I think Sanders may have come up short on that and should definitely be called on the carpet about that. I think recently, as it got more attention, and frankly, props to Elizabeth Warren and other people for going out of their way to say, no, I'm calling this out. And she was very effective. She didn't win any primary states, so eventually that narrowed her path, but she was effective in other ways. I mean, Mike Bloomberg's $500 million versus Elizabeth Warren just spitting facts, right? So one of the things she did was put that agenda on the table. Having said that, I think Bernie Sanders at the debate and in other high-impact forums said, no, I'm calling on people to be civil and trying to address that. I think more broadly, we have to understand, we get so blinkered and narrowed by the personalities. And we live in a culture, as you all know very well, where we're basically constantly agitated to focus on the personality. And the culture and the the mediums we have are richer and more colorful than ever. So we see the personality. And Trump has exploited that and hacked that. But if you take a step back, what has happened that I see in the last 2 consecutive cycles is more people in both parties have been looking for disruptors who aren't even in the party. So they said it was going to hurt Trump, that he's from New York. You guys know Trump from before. He's not a real evangelical Republican. Come on.
He's not even a politician.
Yeah, but the Republican Party looked at all of their options, the Jeb Bushes and Rubios, and this new person, and they went for him. And that's its own thing. And I'm not saying there's any equivalence to Sanders. I think they have totally different agendas. But then look at Bernie Sanders got about 40+% last time and is running second to the guy we just mentioned, Joe Biden. And he's not even in the party. So if you take it together, you go 2 cycles in a row, the vast majority of voting people say, I'm not about these parties. I'm not about these institutions. They are failing. They fail over and over. And so where does this go back to your question? I think it goes to the fact that people voting for a Sanders aren't necessarily feeling that they automatically owe anyone their vote after that. Right? So it's the party's got to prove it to them.
That's right, and that's my whole thing. Like, what? That's why younger voters aren't coming out, because I don't think younger voters care about personality. I think they care about policies. I think they care about ideas. You know what I mean? I think they're voting their interests. And what are they providing? What are the Democrats providing on that side?
Yeah, and I mean, and isn't that crazy? When you look at Bernie Sanders being very old and having the best support among young people, right? Or earlier back in the day, Jon Stewart had a huge following among young people for being kind of a funny truth teller, but he was a lot older. So I don't, people talk about identity politics or whatever. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're only supporting the person that actually literally reflects you.
But my fear is if the younger people don't feel like the candidate is speaking to them, do they just not come out? Because that's what we've seen, right? That a lot of younger candidates weren't coming out.
They didn't come out Tuesday. This past Tuesday.
Yeah, I think primaries are hard too because it's too many choices.
Right.
And so people at a certain point go, I don't know, come back to me when it's simpler or when I know who the person is, and I'll make a judgment over whether I think they're a leader.
Right.
Look, the other thing about Trump that is important to remember, if you want to talk about what we know, empirical facts, not predictions, the turnout in the election after Trump, these midterms, was higher than any turnout in a midterm election since women got the right to vote, which is to say, since we've allowed everyone to vote with some exceptions we could talk about and some restrictions, and you mentioned voter suppression, but that's literally the highest midterm turnout ever. So if it continues like that, and Charlemagne raises the questions why maybe it won't, depending on who's inspired, but if it continues like that, that could be a total wave. If people stay home, then you're back where you were.
Do you see a spike in your ratings when you have these rappers on? Because you be having rappers that are like, wow, I can't believe they on MSNBC.
When you say spike, I mean, the type of data we get, which I don't even look at the next day, I wait till I get off the set, so I don't try to think about it too much, but what we get are macro waves. So if you do something really crazy and it craters or crashes, you'll see that, and other times you see things go up. But I don't have like we had Yo Gotti on recently. It's not like I have like a little calculator where it says like Yo Gotti went 3% up or down. I don't know if radio's different.
Yes.
Yeah, we can see.
You can see every little thing.
Yeah, it's a line.
You
can see when things go up and things go down.
Sorry,
when things
if they don't like you, they just keep going down, and we just gotta say thank you, Ari.
We call that 0 meter money.
Yeah. So, but I think that the craziest thing for me with that is, like when I was in South Carolina, an elderly white gentleman came up to me and was very honest and said, I watch your show. I appreciate the news, the law. I think you're fair. Great. That's nice. Thank you. And then he's like, but I got to tell you, he's like, I was closed-minded. He said for the longest time, he said he thought of rap music as something that didn't have value or intelligence. He thought it was noise. And he goes, watching your show when you started doing it and having people on, I didn't get it. I just put up with it. He goes, and now I realize, he said this, he says, now I realize rap's like country. And it's all about how you're living and how the world works in the story, right? And that might be very obvious, right? But my job's not to judge anyone, really, for the most part. It's like, okay, that's interesting, and he feels the need to say he felt opened up by the show. And so I think to me, it's not just having the rappers on, it's having them on along with a lot of other people and cultural leaders in serious segments in exchange with other people. So
how do you sell Uncle Murder to your producers? When Ari goes in the room, he says, I want to have Uncle Murder on my show. How do you sell that one?
I say it could be worse. It could be Uncle Double Murder.
that is true.
Plus, he has a year-end wrap-up, and that's a great way to discuss all the big topics that happen throughout the year, kind of at
The wrap up is
Yeah.
incredible. I will tell you. So Uncle Murda somewhere. That's not like gateway hip hop. That's deep in there.
Who does the prep work when you have Uncle Murda on there?
Well, we have great on the beat. We have great producers, but that's trying to help people understand where does this fit in. This is a conversation. And by the way, I mean this goes back to who sets the rules, right? And who is allowed to violate the rules. We just talked about Donald Trump and vulgarity, among other things, that the right wing has suddenly decided to put up with, but used to be, I mean, C. Dolores Tucker and Bill O'Reilly used to be lecturing Pac about this stuff.
See, Dolores Tucker was right, though, but continue.
Go on.
Nah, she was right. Everything she said back then was absolutely right. The music was degrading. It was misogynistic. It was sexist. And you know what we told her back then? Shut up, bitch. That's exactly what Pac said. But then fast forward 30, 40 years later, Snoop's on Red Table Talk being chastised for his language.
I think you make a strong point. I'm not sure if he said that or anyone said that that's wrong. But, I mean...
Oh, you don't remember that? Tupac, see Dolores Tucker, you a bitch to me.
He said that, but he also said, see Dolores Tucker, you a swear word that rhymes with it, and you're not trying to help a brother.
I don't remember. I don't remember that.
But I mean, and also I think it depends where the conversation's coming from. By which I mean, are you trying to engage something honestly, or are you using it to politic on it? And my point being, there were certainly other voices on the right that said we can't stand any vulgarity if it comes out of this culture.
Yeah,
and we're going to criticize that. And then all of a sudden, Donald Trump comes up and it's all co-signed and it's fine.
I think one is about freedom of speech, right? Like one is saying no, we want to silence people. The other is saying no, your lyrics are actually bad and destructive. Like I think that's what C. Dolores Tucker was saying.
Right, and I hear that, and we have to listen to that. I also think it just depends on the context. Meaning, if Eric Clapton does "I Shot the Sheriff," and everyone goes, "Oh, that's an interesting parable," and then a different artist who looks different talks about killing law enforcement, and everyone takes it very seriously.
Like if Guns N' Roses is saying that, then it's okay, but
Right.
we're just targeting hip hop.
Right. So I mean, this brings us back to the Uncle Murda or Uncle Double Murda question, which is, I have to put it in I have to prove and put in a context that if parts of this are objectionable, how are they to be understood? And how does that relate? And if parts of it are so objectionable they shouldn't be on the air or on the news, we do make those judgments sometimes. But I would argue that a lot of this has been narrowed in ways that when you really unpack it, aren't very fair. So we just want to be fair about it.
So with so many guests that's been on your show, who are some of your favorites that stand out that you were surprised?
The Breakfast Club, probably.
Besides us.
Breakfast Club was fire, and that was coming. We had a newsworthy exchange because it was after the Kamala Harris thing,
Correct.
and that was fascinating. I watched that interview, and there were people reacting, and you were talking about it, and then it was like she came on and had a whole agenda, including decriminalizing marijuana and other things nationally, although she has a different record as a prosecutor, yada yada. And what everyone was upset about was when did you listen to Snoop?
Yeah.
I was like, this world is changing. No, I mean, look, some of the most fascinating people are the ones you'd never expect that you would be talking to. For example, the first person to get a pardon from Donald Trump, very controversial, Sheriff Joe Arpaio, whose policies were literally held by courts to be unlawful, who is famously racially profiling. But he agreed to come on, and so we had that conversation, and that was super interesting. Arpaio's not someone that I'm going to like go to the club with.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? I wouldn't even necessarily ask him to do private security, Charlemagne, Sheriff Joe.
Yeah.
But really interesting to talk that out. And what I think sometimes is I would not even get to talk to this person otherwise. You know, obviously creatives and artists. Jeremy Harris, who did Slave Play, came on.
Oh, wow, I saw that. Did you go see it?
I did see that.
I didn't know what was going on at first.
It was very intense.
Yeah, very.
But that's another time where listening to him was very educational. And so that was super interesting. And then it's like people you can't even believe it's happening. Like we had on REM, 50, as you know, who's been through here many times with you guys, I love. And just the conversation is interesting. So I love, and then that's the part of the job where I'm just like, man, this is crazy.
Who are some people on your bucket list that you haven't had that you're like, I got to get this person?
Well, I feel strongly that the Jay-Z thing has to happen, and it's going to take not only you guys, but really everyone at home.
I'm telling you right now, you're going to have to go to Jay-Z. Jay-Z's not coming in that building.
We'll go anywhere.
And that's fine.
That's fine. No,
That's
we'll
fine.
go anywhere. So I think Jay and Kanye both are in such special rarefied categories. And I guess if you're an interviewer, you always think this, so I'm sure other people feel the same way. But it's like I feel like if I could really really talk to them, I feel like we could go somewhere with it. Even though, of course, like they might think I've had the conversations with all the greats and you're new, so I'm not going to go downhill. Like if you're someone at a certain level, right, they don't necessarily need to come back. And you guys have all done a lot of these conversations.
Interview both of them, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, the thing is you're a fan. I'm a fan. You know what I mean? And I think when you have your unique POV fan perspective, you can always take the artist somewhere that they've never been.
Yeah.
But if it's based off your perspective.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because there's certain songs that probably touched you in different ways. Like, what's your favorite Jay-Z song?
I love Song Cry. I really love a lot of the songs on 444, like as just a different phase of
Me
Jay-Z.
too. Adult contemporary hip hop.
Love Cashmere Thoughts. I
See what
mean,
I'm
the
saying?
old stuff, you know.
He probably. I mean, I'm sure he hasn't heard that in a while. Cashmere Thoughts, like wow. I don't even remember Cashmere Thoughts. When was Cashmere Thoughts?
That was on the first album. Second album.
First album, Reasonable Doubt.
First album,
Which
Reasonable
one was
Doubt.
Cashmere Thoughts?
It's Yeah, it's got that bass lick.
I don't remember.
I
But I'm
never-
saying, but
I
that-
never cry. If I did, I cry ice.
Got you. But see, that would start a great conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Because think about how many people have probably interviewed him that don't even really know his music, too.
Well, that kills me. Like watching it, and respect to David Letterman, who's a very interesting interviewer.
Yes. That's exactly who I was thinking about.
Yeah.
That was it.
You could play it out a little longer, Envy.
As soon as you hear the first two notes, you know exactly what it is.
Envy just giving you just 2 bars.
There's two
I didn't
bars.
like the David Letterman interview either because that was like Jay-Z 101, like basic Jay. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
Yeah.
nah.
Yeah, it was, and for
It was
me, it was
uncomfortable.
frustrating because there was so much there, and also if you know Jay a little bit, as you guys actually do, and as I do as a stan, I felt like I could see in his eyes at times, being like, "Okay,
Why
I'm
am I
here. I'm
here?"
gonna have to help get us through this
Yeah.
moment."
Now listen, who's to blame when Brian Williams is on TV with I can't remember the young lady's name right now. What was it? Mara Gay, and a tweet comes in that is so wrong, and the math is all off. Whose fault is that? Is that producer's fault? Is it Brian and Mara's fault? Whose fault is that?
Well, I wasn't there on that show, so you're asking a question about like how exactly did that come about, and the short answer is I wasn't there and I don't know. No, because it's not my show, and I don't know. You know, I know they, for folks who saw this, you know, they put up a tweet and then the math is wrong, and they quickly did try to own it and say mistake, correct it, etc.
Not in the moment on TV. In the moment on TV.
On the show, I think they came
did?
back. Not like they came back after a break and fixed it.
Oh, nobody
Yeah.
ever sees that.
They just see the viral part and then they don't see the rest of the show.
Wow.
So I feel you on that. I mean, look, I think in general. So again, like I just wasn't on set. I wasn't on that show. I think in general, a lot of times, if a show is done well, it looks like people are just talking because it shouldn't be too fancy and overly, you know, journalistic every moment. But it also isn't just people talking. And so certain moments, whether it's that, and we've all had them and competitors have had them too, remind everyone, oh, right, yeah, if it wasn't double checked and everyone wasn't prepped and then we didn't take it the right way, what looks like talking can turn into, an error where you're like, oh, millions of people just heard something, we got to fix it.
Do you think people put too much stock in social media? Meaning that,
Yes.
Meaning that somebody put that tweet out, in your mind, you're like, well, somebody must have took the time to do this math, so I guess it's right.
I think this is one of the interesting things about human psychology. I mean, we're just at the front end of this social media stuff, and it's really in your life, right? Where to decide you're not going to do it at all is, for many people, at least in America and many affluent societies, is an extreme choice. So, and then once you start doing it, it's how do you do it? And how do you respond to the incentives? And how do you respond to this thing where when something is written down and put up, or it looks glossy and colorful, it carries with it deep in our brains an imprint of seeming power, import, or truth even though intellectually you know or should know that it's not. And so was it not Kanye who said, I was looking at the gram and I don't even like likes? Envy. Yes. Think about that. I'm trying to get it in a lyric every 5 minutes. You feel me? And so I think even those of us who are literally trained, like it's not everyone else's job to do that, right? But if you're a journalist, you're trained on verify first, two-source rule, all sorts of things that we try to do. And then, yes, you can end up in a situation where...
But that doesn't matter sometimes. And that's the bad thing about social media, like you said, is somebody runs with a story. I remember Sean Pecos, who used to work at Rock Nation and right next to Jay-Z, posted something about Jay-Z donating some money, right? And because it was Pecos and he's right-hand man to Jay-Z, worked at Rock Nation at the time, you automatically assume it's true.
Well, Pecos retweeted it.
He retweeted it.
Yeah, or reposted it.
Yeah, reposted. So you automatically said it was true. We reported it. And then Ye was like, I don't think that's right. And I'm like, nah, it was Pecos.
I was like, I don't know
Pecos
if that's
said
true.
it.
It's dangerous, man.
It was wrong, but you look at things like that, but it still could be wrong.
Right.
And it shows you how-
you do think somebody who works at a company and makes a statement about it that you automatically think, okay, this is coming from a verified source. But sometimes it's...
But that is itself, right? This is part of, I think, what's important, because the more literate we can all be, we have these computers in our pockets, and our children are getting them at younger and younger ages, and as a society, we haven't disentangled this yet. So it's no different than any other heavy machinery. If you really are trained up in how to use it, you're less likely to get hurt, right? This is intellectual and to some degree spiritual machinery. And so we're not trained up. So what you just said makes sense, right? Oh, well, of course this person would apply this standard. But then when you take a step back, you remember, no, like I have friends where like, if we make a plan to meet up at 8 for dinner, they're there, because that means something. And then I have other friends where that means 8:30, and other friends where it means up until
They might not show up at all.
7:50. You get the text.
What time do your black friends come? When you tell them the time, just kidding.
DJ Envy, I'm not answering that question. but it means things to different people. And
Right.
so even within journalism, where ideally, part of the reason we've lost some trust is how we have conducted ourselves through big stories and generally in the media. And so if you work in the press like I do, and I come out of other industries, so maybe I'm less sentimental about, it's always perfect. I'm more like, I came into this, I'm going to try to do it well, whatever. But some people have that standard and some people don't. And so then you have to remind yourself of that. And we all need to know that, because people look at things, and this goes right back to our political conversation. People see a thing and they go, well, I saw it, so it's got to be true.
Right.
Yeah,
You go, hold up, think about that.
Yeah, I was telling somebody yesterday, I was telling my homeboy, we was talking about, what it would take for some of these candidates to win. And he was talking about, it just needs to be more diversity of thought. And I said, actually, it needs to be more diversity of optics, because people see change more than they actually hear it. And I peeped that too when I was watching the Hillary doc. Remember, Hillary gets into the weeds with things when she's talking about her certain policies and certain plans. Meanwhile, Sanders is just out there saying, free healthcare, free college. And people buy into that. So to me, it's just about diversity of optics more so than diversity of thought, because you could lose people with your diversity of thought.
Absolutely. And we're also talking about storytelling. So as people consume information differently and live their lives differently, you want to come back at them with the way you used to pitch things 20 or 40 years ago. It's not going to work.
What do you think went wrong with Bloomberg? He spent so much money.
What went right with Bloomberg?
For him to even get to the point that he got to? Or, I'm just curious, because he spent $500 million on his campaign, and he picked up some steam and then lost it all and found out that he was not a contender. But people did think that he had some potential early on.
I think the potential he had was all on paper theoretical. In fact, Bloomberg and Trump are similar, where if you come out of New York and you've been exposed over the years, you have a different idea than that halo. There's some halo that comes around New York and the rest of the country where it's like, Giuliani, America's mayor, and you're like, well, if you were here,
You would know
you
that-
have a different view.
Right.
He did clean up New York, though, right?
Yeah, not the right way though, but he did.
What's the right way to clean it up?
I mean, he cleaned it up. He was pretty racist with it. He pushed black businesses out. He closed a lot of businesses. He did a lot of redlining.
People talk a lot about 42nd Street and Times Square.
42nd Street is totally different because of him. I mean, you could say it's a good thing, but he definitely took a lot of our businesses out. He took a lot of the Africans off the street that was selling things. That he did a lot that hurt our community, but he did a lot to help the city as well.
Yeah,
Black people are always the sacrificial lamb, though, in those situations.
Well, and I mean, in Bloomberg, you guys talk about this table. I had his campaign manager on, and this was before any of the debates or anything had come out, and we spent most of the time in the interview on that with Kevin Sheekey.
Right.
And I played a video, for example, of a young African-American kid from Brooklyn who told the New York Times that he wasn't stopped 5 or 10 or 15 times. He was stopped 60 times without ever having done anything wrong. And the statistics we went over showed that, as you all know, the statistics is just one version of it, but there were years where Bloomberg stop and frisk stopped more black people than there were black
people.
men in New York. I mean, that is right, and didn't work because over 9 out of 10 weren't even literally booked on anything, let alone what you're entitled to, a jury verdict, right?
And you could end up going to jail for a little bit of weed in your pocket.
Right.
That, white people walking around with weed in their pocket all the time, and they're not getting stopped and frisked. So
100%.
Two things can be true, though, right? Like, you can have all of those that racist legislation, stop and frisk. But then moving forward, you can also have the Greenwood Initiative, which I thought was a great black agenda. Because it's the same thing with Joe Biden, right? 86 crack laws, 94 crime bill, ruin black communities, but he's the most electable candidate that black people run out to vote for.
But what did you think about that Greenwood Initiative? You think it was doable?
First of all, I can't wait for Joe Biden to come through here, right?
He's never coming.
If he did the Shade Room, he's got to come here now.
You know, Hari, you make a good point.
I mean, was that not?
Shade Room was a little bit more controlled, I think.
I think, and that's another mistake. I mean, with all the candidates. I mean, when the idea is, oh, you're going to hide who you are. You're not going to confront anyone. Don't you get more respect at least for having the hard conversation?
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. Angelique said something just now, though. She said, how did you know that it was doable? How do you know any of these things these candidates are talking about are doable? You say, Bernie Sanders say, I'm going to get rid of student loan debt. Okay. I'm going to give you free health care. Okay. I'm going to give you free college. All of it sounds good.
Sounds great.
Right, and Elizabeth Warren had the most policies, I guess, that she had actual plans laid out. But we do hear a lot of, this is the plan, we're going to do this. And it sounds great, but potentially what are the odds that it can happen? Like Bloomberg has said, he's still going to continue with his plans that he had when he was running for president, even now after with whoever he supports. Do we think that these, like, I haven't looked, I looked at the Greenwood Initiative, but I'm like, okay, can this happen?
Absolutely.
I think that's fair. I mean, one thought is affordability or the budget is a neutral sounding thing that is often used more against ideas that are progressive or that advance something for marginalized communities or that try to make things more equal. So the Iraq War was very expensive and it lasted basically like forever and expensive in every way, monetarily and obviously brave men and women who've gone over there and gotten hurt and killed, and all the Iraqis who've gotten killed. But at a big picture level, did anyone stop and say, we can't afford this? Or was it a thing that just got pushed through, right?
Got pushed through, yeah.
And so if you say, oh, the bailout, right? People were told, kind of economic gun to your head, we got to give these banks the money back. Otherwise, everything's going to go to hell. And there are economists who know more about it than I do who said, well, yeah, at a certain point, there might have been a reason to backstop, although the way they did it was very Wall Street friendly, yada, yada. A lot of things get done, right? So I do think you have to be very skeptical when it's like, there was a lot of talk about deficits while Obama was president, even as he rescued the auto industry, did Wall Street reform, did healthcare reform, and began to shrink the deficit over the course of the second term. And you don't hear any Republicans talking about deficits right now, right? So is it affordable? Really, it goes back to,
Where do we want to spend the money?
do you want to do it or not? Right. Now, when you get out to the upper end of, free college for everyone or Medicare for all is not just an affordability question to Charlemagne's premise. It's also, what does it look like to rewire a whole healthcare industry, right? It'd be like if someone came in and said, private radio, that's been good, that's been interesting, but now we're doing, Bernie's president, we're doing all government radio. So y'all can reapply for new government radio jobs that pay a lot less, or you can go do something else, right? And you're like, well, when did this, right? That's a big change. And in America, there are a lot of people who are skeptical of that. So I do think some of the things that Sanders is talking about are like harder, but I don't think that we should always just default to listening to people say, oh, that thing that would help people, you can't afford that, but we can afford the bailout and the war. And
but not even
stuff.
just that, but are they going to, we look at what's going on in the Senate and everything that people try to pass, it doesn't go through. So you can have these great ideas and things that you want to make happen and a plan to make it happen, but will it get stopped?
Right, and it's also a question of whether you have a candidate and an idea or whether you have a movement behind it. Because I do think movement politics can change the composition. I mean, the composition of Congress does change relatively quickly, right? The wave election in 2018 that I mentioned put more women in, made it the most diverse Congress we've ever had. You do that a couple cycles over. You guys had AOC in here recently. That's a whole different thing. Then suddenly it might look different. But no, I don't think you get the change overnight.
So who are you endorsing?
Nobody's
Let's
asked.
Get right to it.
Roddy Ricch is probably the hottest. New
The
thing.
hottest, okay.
Word.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that.
For heat, just at a straight heat level.
Out of the new Generation Z, he probably
Is it Z? Are we calling it Z?
I think he's
now?
Z.
Yeah.
He's the leader of the new school for Generation Z.
So you going with Roddy Ricch?
Yeah.
Let me ask you guys
It's a
something.
good one.
Yes.
why are these songs getting so short?
I was just talking about
Because
that.
people's attention spans
Yeah,
are
they say
short.
their attention spans a lot
And if
shorter.
you're screaming, you want people to keep rewinding it back and forth. Like you get more screams that way. If you got a 2-minute, 20-second
Is that
song,
it? You get the extra
Yeah, you need
streams?
at least a minute 30 for BDS to count, so it counts as a spin. And then
Albums
if you
are
do 2
shorter,
minutes, like you
songs-
said, just bring it back.
And by the way, all of our tastes are like that. I was listening to Lil Baby album. I was like, when is this going to end? It's good, but it's 20 songs. I don't
What-
want
all
20
right.
songs of Lil Baby.
All right, so how much credit do you get if it's like a dance hall DJ and they restart it every, like the first start of the song 15 seconds?
Only
You get
one.
credit for that?
No, minute 30. That's all you get.
Minute
you need
30.
a minute 30. 15 seconds, you don't get no credit.
Okay.
Why, you putting out an album?
No, just doing my research.
Oh, my
Just
goodness.
doing my research.
Well, Ari, we appreciate you for joining us
Yes,
today.
always appreciate
And let us
it.
know when we coming back on your show.
Anytime we'll get you back in. I'm gonna put out Real Talk to YouTube. It's so VIP. It's hard to schedule the Breakfast Club because you end up doing 3 different scheduling
Right.
conversations.
You got us on Valentine's Day last year.
and that was hot. Was
yeah,
that not hot?
Valentine's Day.
My
was
wife
very
was a little
hot.
mad. My wife was like, "Why are you doing an interview on Valentine's Day? Like this guy Ari Melba, he just really wants to see his baby."
Well, it shows my love for the Breakfast Club, and that's when Angela Yee taught me not to call it. Remember this? Don't call it a necklace. We call it a chain.
Oh, that's right.
There you go.
Envy had on a necklace.
I had a chain on.
He has on a necklace right now.
Ari Melba is the Breakfast Club.
Thank
Good
you,
morning.
guys.